and it's very close to Passover, and probably a lot of discussions, a lot of classes, a lot of the workshops we're going to be seeing constantly. There's no shortage of classes and Zoom workshops and lessons. I was just joking around that I probably need to hire a full-time person just to manage all this information that's being shared all over the internet for free, from musicians to actors to rabbis and rebbitzins all over the world, sharing so much wisdom and so much talent during these crazy times. So today's workshop or discussion is going to be a little bit different. So I have a real honest question that I want to ask is, what was the first thought that crossed your mind this morning? This discussion is going to be a little different. We're not going to discuss the value of Passover, though that's super important. We're not going to discuss inner limitations, and we're not even going to discuss quarantine. We're going to discuss something that's so real and so practical that hopefully tomorrow morning we can do. So what are the first thoughts that crossed your mind this morning? Take a moment and ask yourself, even though right now the days seem to blend, is it Sunday, is it Monday, is it Tuesday? Thank God for Shabbat. Otherwise, I don't know if we'd know what day of the week it is, right? So insane. And yet, what's so amazing is that every morning there's that first few seconds. So ask yourself, what was the first thought that crossed your mind this morning? Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't been sleeping that well lately. And I'm usually a pretty good sleeper. But lately, there's a lot on the mind between Passover prep, between worrying about those that I love, between worrying about the state of the world. There's so much on my mind. And you know what? When there's a lot on the mind, it's harder to sleep. So sometimes that first thought, first thing in the morning, what is it? What's fascinating is the human brain is created in an amazing way. You see, you and I will go through days, and we'll have good days, we'll have ups and we'll have downs. We'll have good experiences, we'll have difficult experiences, right? But then what happens is through all of these experiences, we tend to hold on to certain thoughts more than others. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If you are traveling and you have a really solid trip, but then, you get stuck, or there's a problem with your passport, or you're in traffic and you're running late, your brain is actually going to hold on to that negative experience as a part of a whole picture more than the positive experiences. And what's amazing is there's this thing in our brain called the Velcro Teflon effect. So when they try to understand how the brain works, they look at things that our brain holds on to and things that our brain discards. So I'll give you a story. I was once headed to give this workshop about gratitude at a high school. And I was 100 miles away. I had planned on traveling myself. At the last minute, things were getting a little stressful. So I quickly said to my husband, you know what, do you mind, coming with me? He said, you know what, I'll drive you. Quickly, the kids jumped into the car. We drove to Houston, and no one was fighting. Everyone was peaceful. I got to even grab a quick nap. And suddenly, 5 minutes before we get to the school, 5 minutes before, guess what happens? Suddenly, we hit traffic. And now I'm stressed. Now we're late. And as I'm walking into the school, the director who asked me to come says, hey, how are you? And I didn't manage to say, wow, I just drove 100 miles with 3 kids, no fighting, took a nap. No, what went through my mind was actually the stress, that 5 minutes of traffic, because our brains actually hold on to some of the negative experiences. They like Velcro, they stick, and positive experiences actually sometimes can slide off. So neurologically, there's something called the missing towel syndrome, where we may remember the one thing that went wrong. The question is, why are we hardwired that way? How are we going to live life with positivity, or with light, or with goodness? So there's a lot of money that has been invested in understanding the brain and understanding the psyche and understanding how we function in a better capacity. How can we as human beings go through life with happiness? If you look around us right now, there's so much that we can look at that's stressful, a lot, daily, inundated with news, like we said, whether it's economic news, whether it's health news, whether it's lists of names to say that are sick, we're living in intense times, right? So what do we do? Are we just hardwired to fail and be miserable? That's certainly not an option, right? So a lot of money is invested in positive psychology, and there's tons of different thoughts and minds and a lot of work out there. I mean, you can Google it, positive psychology. There's an abundance of information out there. So easy for you to access and to learn, okay? So one of the thoughts in positive psychology is that Brian Tracy, who is a very well-known thought in the positive psychology arena, actually discusses that the first thoughts of your day are the rudder of your day. So if you know what a rudder is, if you've been out on the boat, you know the rudder is the part, it's in the back of the ship or in the back of the boat. It's not very glorious. It's not shiny. It's not beautiful. It's kind of like murky and musty and maybe covered in moss. But what is it? It actually steers the ship. It chooses which direction the ship is going to go. So while the captain's sitting there with the big, beautiful steering wheel, if the rudder is not working, that steering wheel means nothing. So what Brian Tracy was saying is that the first thoughts in your day are actually your rudder of your day, your thoughts that actually affect how your day is going to go. Okay, there's another famous psychologist named Acker, and he actually delivered the most attended lecture at Harvard University. What happened was he got to Harvard to do studies, and he suddenly noticed that a lot of people had gotten there. They arrived. They were at their choice school. They're exactly where they want to be, and they were down, and they were miserable, and they were stressed. And he said, what is going on here? And so he got permission to actually live in the freshman dorms for 10 years and did tons of extensive research on how the brain works and how happiness works and how our minds work in order to understand. And through all this rigorous attention and a rigorous study, he discovered that when you wake up in the morning, you need to actually verbalize and articulate what you are grateful for, because gratitude actually makes us happy. So you ever had an experience possibly where you're feeling not so amazing about yourself and suddenly you hear bad news about someone else and you're like, oh gosh, and you appreciate what you have? I know here in Texas, I live in College Station, Texas. It's 100 miles northwest of Houston. And I remember we were going about our day-to-day life, and then Hurricane Harvey happened in Houston. And suddenly the silly issues that we seem to have about our possessions or the things that we owned or the things that we wanted to acquire, suddenly that faded away because we were so inundated with visuals, with going to visit and help people clean out their homes, and suddenly seeing how everyone's life possessions were gone. It really gave us perspective. But we don't have to wait till those moments to be happy, because what do we wait for tragedy to be happy? There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better plan for how to do it. So I look at the way psychologists and the scientists have been really looking to understand what makes us happy. And it reminds me of something that we have as Jews, and that's age old. For thousands of years, when we wake up in the morning, we have a very simple prayer called the Moda Ani. So you know what's interesting about the Moda Ani? The Moda Ani is actually a gratitude prayer, and it's really not long. Okay, it's a very short gratitude prayer that we say in the morning, which we'll unpack today, and hopefully tomorrow morning. It's something you'll be able to unpack and bring into your life, right? Something really small and practical. What's interesting also about our minds and how we operate is that when you're in a bad zone, what you need to do is you need to really reshift. And it takes between 12 and 15 seconds to get your mindset in a new place. So I'll never forget, there was a Friday and I was in a bad mood. I didn't have enough sleep. I was cranky. The to-do list was from here to here. I mean, it was long. And I remember I was snapping at everyone. Now, I don't know if anyone is right now experiencing any of these symptoms pre-Passover, but we're a little edgier, right, with whatever's going on. And I remember one of my children stood in front of me, a young child, and said, you're in a bad mood. And I was like, no, I'm not in a bad mood. And the child said, oh, you're definitely in a bad mood. And I said, no, I'm not in a bad mood. And suddenly, as I was saying it, I realized that not only was I in a bad mood, but I was cranky, I was miserable, and I was probably sharing that mood with everyone. Now, I have to say, in the past few days, that may be the mode a little bit more, right? So, but knowing that actually neurologically to rewire my brain, it takes 12 to 15 seconds, I did the parenting technique that works most called a timeout. Except this timeout wasn't for the child. This timeout was for me. And more often during these chaotic times, I'm finding myself needing to step out, inhale and exhale, remove myself from the situation, and reframe the way I think about it. Reframe my mindset. Because all it takes is 12 to 15 seconds to do so. Okay? Now, how else, what are other techniques or methods we can do? Is we said first gratitude, which we'll talk about in a minute what that little exercise is. And psychologically, we know that's healthy for us. We understand focusing on the good things. That's easy. That's also a no-brainer. We can do that. And the other thing is realizing that we have the ability to reframe our mind and redirect our thought process. Now, what is it about this prayer in the morning? I said, so the Moda Ani, I don't know if you've heard about it, but the Moda Ani is a 12-word prayer. So a few years back, I was heading to a bar mitzvah, a very dear friend's son with my child. And at the bar mitzvah, the bar mitzvah boy talked all about the Moda Ani. As a matter of fact, that was his bar mitzvah talk. Now, usually a bar mitzvah boy gets up and he says, oh, today I am a man. And you're looking at him as this young child with a squeaky voice, hardly looks like a man, right? And yet, they're taking responsibility. Now, this young bar mitzvah boy, his talk, Mendel's talk, good friend's talk, was all about the Moda Ani and gratitude. And it really struck me thinking. So I went home and I actually did talk to all the students about this Dvar Torah because it was so meaningful. His words about gratitude and focusing on the Moda Ani. And I kind of threw myself right into the Moda Ani to understand it. And what I discovered, first of all, is aside from the psychological aspects of the first thoughts of the day, I also discovered that neurologically, what actually happens is if you know anything about brainwaves. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist. I run Chabad at Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas, mom of 6, not a neuroscientist. And yet, I know a little bit that neuroscientific waves operate in different modes. So the alpha waves, beta waves, gamma waves, delta waves, it's not a fraternity, it's not a sorority, it's the brain waves. It's how your brain works. And different brain waves you can see different brain waves depending on what your brain is doing. So right when you wake up in the morning, your brain is actually in alpha mode. What is alpha mode? So alpha mode is the most sponge-like, the most absorbent mode. As a matter of fact, an experienced meditator, which I must say I am not, actually tries to get their brain into alpha mode because in alpha mode, you're most absorbent. That means whatever goes in goes deeper into your brain. And so first thing in the morning, your brain, right when you wake up, is in alpha mode. So that's why Brian Tracy says, don't turn on the news. Sean Acker says, right when you wake up, focus on what you're grateful for. Guess what? That's what we've been doing, the Moda Ani. So what we'll do today is we'll unpack the Moda Ani and we'll try to understand its significance in our lives and understand how we can bring this value of gratitude into our every single day. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. So maybe you've heard it in Hebrew school or in preschool. Moda Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatacha. You know what the Moda Ani actually is saying to us? Moda Ani is first and foremost a prayer of gratitude. It's said by a tiny child, by the parent holding a baby, and a 99-year-old. Start their day with the same prayer. As a matter of fact, we're blessed with triplets. And when our triplets were newborns, they were born at 32 weeks. Now, before they left the NICU, they were in the NICU for 4 weeks. And before they left the NICU, the team of psychologists at Baylor Medical School actually came to the NICU and they did an evaluation on each child. And the first thing they said is you can tell these children were spoken to every single day and held every single day. They got out of the hospital at 36 weeks. Now, that's not usually when children will be born, and yet they were able to tell that these children were held and spoken to. But what were the words we were telling them? We were starting their day with Moda Ani. We were ending their day with the Shema. So what is it, the Moda Ani? What is the Moda Ani prayer? So Modeh comes from the word todah, thanks. Now, within that thanks comes a dose of humility, acknowledgement, some sort of surrender. Modeh, thank you, like toda rabah. Okay? Ani, I, who's ani? Lefanecha, me, we, us, before Hashem. Me and you, Hashem. We're saying something so powerful. First thing in the morning, I'm establishing and reminding myself I have a relationship with you, God, me and you. Like I said, Lefanecha, I defies all the ages, all the stages. A 99-year-old, a rich person, a poor person, everyone starting their day with those mindset of gratitude. Melech Chai V'Kayim, the living and eternal King. What does that mean? That means our King who spoke this world into existence. God didn't just create a world, set it into, motion and sit back and say, let's see what happens. No. This is a Hashem. This is a King that is living, eternal, connected, involved in my life. Ani lefanacha, you and I. Chai v'kayim, real, living source of life. V'kayim, everlasting, enduring, sustaining. Okay? And what is that living, eternal King that's involved in the details of this world? Which, you know what? When we're looking at it right now, that's really not the easiest thing to digest. Not the easiest thing to see. Even more so, this mindset is so essential to remind ourselves God is involved in your life, in my life, every single day, every single morning. Shechazarta bi nishmati, he returned my soul, nishmati, to me. What is it? What is my soul? So what happens is, our sages tell us when we're sleeping, our soul, a portion of our soul ascends on high and it gets recharged, refurbished, plugged in, and we get it returned within us for a new day. You know when you go to sleep and you don't charge your cell phone, that first thing in the morning and your battery's not fully there, God takes our neshama, a portion of it, and recharges it for the new day. Nishmati, my soul. What's my soul? It's this eternal living part of Hashem that I have within me. My life, my sustenance, my energy, the thing that will sustain me, the thing that will help me tap into my own inner light, my own potential, and allow it to shine outward. That neshama, that breath of Hashem, that part of Hashem that's within me is returned, renewed, restored, recharged, and I have it to tap into for a new day. Bechemla means with compassion, meaning maybe yesterday I just sat on the couch and watched Netflix, which, you know what? Right now, I guess that's something that we're doing to save the world, right? Even though in quarantine, there's a lot of good we can do, right? A lot of people we can reach out to, we can affect in a positive way, okay? But what we have to say is maybe yesterday wasn't the best day for me, right? Maybe I was snapping at everyone. Maybe I was cranky. Maybe I was negative. We all have those days. What God is saying is, I believe in you and I'm giving you a new day, a new opportunity. And Rabba emunatecha, great is your faithfulness. And there's two beautiful explanations for this one. So what is the faithfulness? So first of all, if I really reflect on the fact that this living eternal King chose to give me this new day and this new opportunity, wow, that will certainly increase my faith in Hashem. Saying this prayer in the morning with intentionality, with a mindset, with kavanah, and not just mumbling it or whispering it, but saying each and every word. And there's a power to articulating our words. There's a power to not just leaving them in our head. You ever had a really nice thought to say to someone and it's just stayed in your head? I was reading an account of one of my friends who was in the hospital and not doing well. And one of the things in their account they said was they realized how much they hadn't said to those who they loved. The power of articulating something so important. Understanding that God has faith in us and is giving us this new day will actually increase our faith. But let's look at this from a different angle. Hashem has faith in us, in you, in today, in the opportunity you have at this moment, this day that you didn't have yesterday. Hashem has faith in you and your ability to do something powerful with this day. And you have a soul within you with that fuel to get it going. You, with your circumstances, your issues, your worries, your challenges, all of it. Hashem has faith in you. Great is your faithfulness. It's talking about our neshama, our tafkid, our abilities every single day. And when we start our day with this mindset, now I have to share personally, this has been a little harder the past 2 weeks, this prayer, to really do this with the kavanah, the intentionality, and the mindset, the mindfulness that every single day that we have, there's good news and there's positivity is a little harder to do. But our sages knew something that's so powerful that when we start our day articulating that purity of our soul, our potential, and our ability to harness the energy of that day and do good, we will go far. We will go so far. And that little few minutes in the morning, that prayer is something that we can tap into moving forward in life. So let me ask you, tomorrow morning, can you say that prayer? Back to that bar mitzvah that I went to. You see, the reason the Dvar Torah was so powerful was this young, beautiful boy, Mendel. And I'll post probably a picture below. He had a condition, a genetic condition, and he understood the power and the gift of every single day. When he was younger, he had been in a coma and he came out of the coma. Well, shortly after his bar mitzvah, he actually had complications from his condition. And he lived every day with vitality and beauty and life and light and positivity. He lived the message of gratitude. And shortly after his bar mitzvah, he had complications and went into a coma. And just a few weeks later, his soul left this world. And I made that commitment. See, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a neuroscientist, but I am someone who understands the power of learning this gift. Mendel Cutler, Menachem Mendel Ben Daniel, gave us a gift of focusing on something so simplistic, so basic, the gift of every single day, the gift of starting your day with the Moda Ani. Since then, we have taught this lesson of Moda Ani to thousands around the world, from birthright trips to Israel Links to Sinai Scholars Retreat. If you've been there, you've probably seen one of these cards, and on the back is an excerpt from Mendel's talk. So actually, if you want me to mail you a few of these cards to have by your bed to remind yourself about gratitude, you just drop your address below or PM us, and we will send these to you. Because these are a great reminder to have around you to appreciate the gift of every day. And when we do, I'm reading from the card, it said, gratitude makes you happy. And that's the truth. In these trying times, in these chaotic times, this ritual of saying the Moda Ani, since I've taught this lesson, there are people who 4 years later say, this has changed the way I have connected with my day, with my potential, with my soul. I've changed my dialogue and my conversation. And we will send you a bunch of these cards for you to have and for you to share with others. Because the gift of gratitude, it's not just something that will affect you for a second. It's something that will have that, like that rudder of the day, will carry into your day in a positive way. And we know that how badly, right now in 2020, we need this message of gratitude. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, and you can go to Chabad.org and you can Google it. There's audio clips of the Moda Ani. You can go on YouTube and find great recordings of the song and different fun tunes. But the message of gratitude, the message of tapping into your soul's and neshama's potential every single day, the message of starting your day connected and anchored is a powerful meditation that can really, really propel us forward, especially during these insane and trying and complicated times. So don't wait. Start tomorrow. Thank Hashem that you're here, that you're alive, you have a soul, and remember that God believes in you and the world needs you and your potential, your gifts, even with your struggles, with whatever's going on. Hashem is relying on you. So I hope this is something powerful that we could take into our day. I know for me, this is something that really, every time I remind myself this message, that Moda Ani the next day is different. So I'm giving the gift, Mendel's gift, the gift of Moda Ani, the gift of Jews for thousands of years to you. And I hope it's something you can really start incorporating in your life. And if you do, feel free to drop me a message. I know that Mendel's mom and dad find a lot of comfort in knowing that young, beautiful souls around the world have learned this gift of Moda Ani from Mendel. May his neshama have an aliyah, and may we enter a time of peace and harmony where we're united with everyone with the coming of Mashiach. Chag Sameach.